This is GBNews. I'm Nana Acquare. Now it's time for our Great British Debate. This hour, I'm asking, should asylum seekers plug the care sector staffing gap? Home Secretary Priti Patel says that asylum seekers who've waited over a year for a decision on their case can now work in care homes. It's hoped that the decision will help to ease the recruitment crisis in the sector. Up to 32,000 asylum seekers are eligible for jobs as care workers after they were added to the government shortage occupation list. I'm joined by Joyce Pinfield. She's a spokeswoman for the National Care Association. Joyce, welcome. I want to ask you, do you think that we should use asylum seekers to plug the staffing shortages in the care sector?
We are suffering and have done historically for a very long time about massive workforce shortages. We desperately need more people into the workforce. The main problem, of course, is the funding. The local authorities aren't able to pay the correct wage so that we can introduce people from our own sector. This has been one of the major problems behind being able to do recruitment. So the carers were put on the shortage occupation list, but unfortunately there is a minimum wage on there of £20,480, which indeed, even some, we do struggle to pay that with the fees that are paid by local authorities. So to be able to widen the pool of where we can actually bring social care workers in from is, of course, of a great benefit to everyone who needs care. At present, there are so many unmet care needs and people indeed who are receiving care but are having their care reduced. It's an absolutely awful situation out there at the moment that so many people have so many unmet care needs, and a lot of it is really down to finance and workforce shortages. However, we do need to be able to bring into the sector social care workers working in the industry, in care homes and in the community, in domiciliary care, who have the right feelings, who have the right nature and the ability to give care to the people that they are looking after, because we are looking after the most vulnerable people in society. And yes, we do need quite a lot of training. And so if these people who I believe have had to be on the list for over 12 months are brought into the sector, it should be a great help, because we are really looking for people to come and help us in the sector to provide the care, but they will need training and be able and suitable to be able to do that care for the people that we are looking after.
Because that would be a worry, wouldn't it? Just to be giving people jobs because they are refugees or asylum seekers, and instead of paying for them, their work could pay. The other side, if I look at this, I'm thinking, well, it's all very well that you're using this, but what about doing something which would improve the pay for those doing the jobs? Because I suspect the reason why the sector is so badly staffed is more to do with the pay. Why is it that care homes can't pay more for their staff?
Local authorities, many people receive care which is paid for through local authorities. Of course, care is all means tested, and so this is the way that we do get the funding to be able to pay our carers and to provide the facilities or provide care in people's own homes. So if we're not getting the correct fees to be able to pay out a decent wage to our wonderful carers who've been working absolutely tirelessly and are so stressed out during the last 18 months of the coronavirus. And of course, we've been having to cover many, many shifts for people who are isolating, who indeed have COVID. And then we have had a few people come in during the lockdowns from the hospitality sector. Well, of course, now they've gone back to the hospitality sector, and the mandatory vaccinations also did not help the sector in being able to recruit people. So this is what we require, is a proper wage to be able to pay to our carers, which is funded. We would indeed prefer to have parity with the NHS on the funding for the wages that we will be able to pay our carers, because they're doing a fantastic job out there. But we are so short-staffed and everybody is so stressed out that indeed many are leaving the sector.
Do you think that, just very briefly on this one, that if they did increase the wage, it would attract more staff? Or is the problem deeper than that?
The problem is primarily wages. And then we keep hearing various supermarkets and Amazon, they are being able to pay their staff a lot more. They don't need the amount of training that we have in social care. They don't have the responsibility. They don't have quite the amount of the work and responsibility looking after people. And so they are getting far more wages. We would love to be able to pay the same as many supermarkets or somebody like Amazon. And this is just absolutely impossible at the moment. And even to be able to pay for better training, to be able to give career progression, that would help bring more people into the sector. A proper wage and career progression should indeed help bring people into the sector. But we do welcome anybody who is willing to come into the sector with the right values and caring nature to look after these vulnerable people. I think something you just said there,
Joyce, what you just said there about the right caring nature, is there not a worry then? And, you know, I'm all for, in fact, it was a suggestion that I made. I think Priti Patel must have been listening to me because I suggested that why don't we use some of the migrant workers? So, you know, I'll let her have that one. But isn't there a worry in there, though, that we need to really make sure that we're getting the right people to do those jobs? Because if I had my relative in a care home, and I'm happy if someone's taking care of them and helping them, because if I couldn't do it. But what checks and balances will be in place to make sure that these are the right people?
Anyway, we all have to do the right checks and balances before anybody comes to work in social care. There are many processes they have to go through. So I'm sure that bringing people who have not been in the country for that long would need to go through further checks and balances, particularly regarding language and how they would feel about giving personal care to the people who are requiring her. Because we do have to remember that demographics just show that we're going to need a lot more care workers. A lot more people in the future are going to be needing care. So if we can bring in people on the shortage occupation list or through the asylum seeker route and ensure that we have done the correct checks and balances, the correct training, and then, of course, support them through mentoring and supervision so that we really know that we are bringing people into the sector who really do want to do a caring job and hopefully career progression for the future as well.
Well, listen, Joyce, thank you so much for your thoughts. Thank you for joining us. That's Joyce Pinfield. She's a spokeswoman for the National Care Association.